Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of 0 and 2 Heroes. I know this is now 4 months in a row you've got an episode from me, and I'm consistent, but I still don't have an introduction. I still don't have a slogan or a way to open the show. Eventually, someday I'll get that. But I'm going to get right into it. We got a very special game. We got a very special guest today. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves, but please welcome to the show.
I'm Ryan from the List Off podcast with Brian and Ryan. As you may have guessed, I'm the Ryan half. Mikey, 4 months in a row, you're like a real podcaster. You've always been a real podcaster.
No. There's like multiple month stretches where I had the switch it up release policy where we're just like, cool, you get 2 episodes in 7 months and it happens when it happens. But I'm trying to be consistent with this one. But
cool. Yeah, it's a good show for sure.
Yeah, shout outs to switch it up. But Ryan, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for bringing up List Off. But I'm going to give you a chance to talk about your show, but I want to talk about your show real quick.
Okay.
You put out a TikTok one time that had me featured in it, and my partner Hannah found it, and she has like an idea of who the podcast that like I talk to and hang out with, but she knows List Off with Ryan and Ryan.
Oh yeah, nice. I like it that way.
Your 2 hosts, Ryan got kicked out, so
That's okay. He's sometimes wanted on my show. I'm kidding. I love you, Brian. Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. And honestly, like I have to say and be transparent here, the whole reason we came back, you're a big reason why we came back. There were very few people like clamoring for our show, and I wouldn't say you were clamoring, but like I think that after listening to the episode you put together when we had stopped podcasting, it was like, man, I don't want to lose touch with these people. I don't want to like get outside of this circle of people who I consider friends now,
Yeah. I'm very happy to have you back. It's very cool. I will say I'm a little mad you made my farewell episode obsolete. It was a grand goodbye. We'll never see you again.
It was.
And then here you are.
I don't blame any hard feelings you might have, Mikey. I really don't. I totally understand them.
No. Sure. That was a very fun one to put together. I reached out I went through the checklist. I scrolled through every episode you had, and you had exactly 11 guests. I'm like, that's the perfect amount for a top 10 and an honorable mention. So I reached out to all of them. It was very fun to put that together.
That's cool.
But we are here not to talk about lists. I'm sure we're going to have a list at some point in this episode. But we are here to talk about a fighting game, specifically for the Sega Genesis. And you picked this one. So how about you go ahead and tell us what we're playing and why we're playing it?
Sure. So I went ahead and picked the game Weaponlord. For longtime listeners of List Off, you may be familiar with this game. I've told a few stories. It's made a few lists in the past. But it's actually for the Sega Genesis and SNES. Specifically, we are playing the Genesis version. So, I picked this game because it came up a few times on our show, and I have a story about this game from my childhood, and I kind of have a grudge against Weaponlord. My childhood friend and I, Chris was his name. We used to go to the video store, which I ended up working at later in life. The video store was called Movie Magic, and it was like a 3-mile walk to this video store, and we had to go over a creek. There was like a tree over a creek. It was a whole adventure. It was basically like think Fellowship, right? That's what it was. It was like Fellowship of the Rings, just to go get a movie or a game on the weekend. So we go to Movie Magic, and he had a Sega Genesis, and we're trying to pick that weekend's game, and we come across Weaponlord, and it's got a sick cover, dude. It made it. I think it was #1 on our best video game covers.
That's the first time I heard about this game was from that episode, and you were talking about it like, he was like a comic book artist, like big beefy dudes. And
super beefy dudes.
I was driving a truck at the time. I'm like, I'm going to forget the name of this if I don't do it now. I pulled over, looked up Weaponlord like on the side of the highway, was like, oh yeah, you're right. That is cool cover art. And then I went back to work.
Shout out to Simon Bisley who put together the cover art. So we get this game and we're excited. It looks cool. It's a fighting game. Fighting games are all the rage during this time period. It was the 90s. So we walk all the way back to his house. We pop it in the Genesis and we try playing it. Of course, we try playing the story. Holy shit, Mikey! Like, This is the most difficult game on earth. We couldn't get past the first level. We couldn't figure out how to do any cool special moves like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat at the time had. Like, we could not get any projectiles out. We're like, what is this? We were getting absolutely wrecked for like 45 minutes, unable to get past the first opponent. And, you know, the night was still young. So we were like, all right, let's go back. We'll return it and get another game, right? So we go all the way back to Movie Magic. It's now like the Two Towers. And we make it there. And the dude working would not let us exchange it for another game. We didn't, well, you know, we're naive little kids, right? So he asked, is it broken? And I was like, no, it's not broken. And he said, well, then you can't return it for another game. You can't exchange it. You have to like have it, or you could return it and purchase, like pay for the rental of another game. And we didn't have cash. Like, we spent our cash on freaking Weaponlord, dude. So we were like arguing with him for 5 minutes, and he stood his ground and would not like give up an inch. So we had to then walk all the way back, and we were stuck with Weaponlord for the weekend. And we just like, it left a real bad taste in our mouths, as you can imagine. As I mentioned, though, I later went on to work at this video store, and that dude would come back. He came back from college to work summers there. And I told him, like, years later, when I ended up working there, I told him, his name was Brian, of all people. Maybe that's why I have a rivalry with Brian. And I told him, I was like, dude, you remember this? Like, this is a while back. You know, I rented this game. You wouldn't let us return it because it wasn't broken. And he was like, oh, yeah, I do remember that. I'm like, you're a real piece of shit, dude. I was like, I can't believe you did that to some kids, man. Like, what is your deal, dude? And yeah, anyway, it was fun. Weaponlord was not, but the memory is fun, you know?
Yeah, so hearing that story and hearing you talk about not having fun with Weaponlord, I'm really surprised that you asked to have Weaponlord on the show. Just like, out of all the fighting games, why are we doing Weaponlord again?
Because I haven't played it since then.
Okay.
And it's like, now I feel like it's become a thing, you know? I mentioned it a few times on the show, and like, I feel like a big part of having a gaming podcast is you tend to look back on gaming memories you had, or memories associated with gaming. So like, this is a game I never thought about in the 20 years between that weekend and now. You know, I like Weaponlord was not living in my mind, but then you start doing a gaming podcast and you make these lists, you put these episodes together, and all this stuff starts creeping back in. All these memories come back to you. So I really wanted to revisit it and see if it was as bad and as difficult as I remember it being, and seeing if, you know, 2023, you know, 30 plus years of experience gamer me can now conquer the game that once gave me so much trouble.
Okay. Now, I didn't realize you had it for the 1 week or the one weekend that you rented it. I assumed you were like a Weaponlord master. I figured you were going to come in and just core all around me. But so you were talking a little bit about how you couldn't do the combos, you couldn't figure it out. It wasn't like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. Did you watch, I think it was like the 20 or the 25th anniversary, the guy who made Weaponlord did like an hour-long presentation on YouTube about like the history and development of it?
No, I did not watch this.
So it's not as grandiose as I'm describing it. It's like, I think it happened during COVID. It was like him and his roommate, and they were just like, they went to Twitch and they were playing it, but he talked about the development and all the background stuff. And being a somewhat good podcast host, I want to like research the game that we're covering.
I'm a terrible host. I did not do that.
No, you're the guest. You have nothing to do except play the game. I'm going to do all the research.
Perfect.
And now I get to tell you and the audience, he was heavily inspired by Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, but not in the way you think it. He wanted to be the antithesis of those two. So
Mission
he was
accomplished.
Like, Street Fighter, easy combos. Weaponlord, not easy combos. He was just, his whole design philosophy was, how do I be as opposite as the popular fighting games as I can? Because like you said, it was the 90s, fighting games were really popular. He wanted to like differentiate and like distinguish his game amongst the hundreds that were coming out. So he figured, if I do the exact opposite of what everyone's doing, I'll be the standout. And then it just turned out to be a very hard game to play.
Dude, I mean, you know, and the thing is, when you look through like the manual or, you know, move lists, things like that, you could tell there's depth there. You know, they have like their, what is their block? There's like a certain type of block you could do. And like looking at the combos and all the moves, you're like, okay, like if you somehow, like if this became the popular game at the time,
Mhm.
right? If this was the Street Fighter instead of Street Fighter being it, like these would be the move sets burned into
Yeah.
our memories, right? Like it would be the fireball instead of the fireball motion, it would be these
Yeah.
combos. So I kind of understand what he's saying, and I think there's depth there, but like for anybody walking in, there's no other inputs like this
Mhm.
that I've ever seen in any fighting game. So like it's not your Smash, it's not your Street Fighter, it's not your Mortal Kombat. For anyone who doesn't like study and like lab this game, you're going to come in and have a real tough time with it. Um so it's cool to know that he set out to do that. I would say he achieved what he set out to do. It is very much the antithesis of those games, but I don't think that's for better. I definitely think it's for worse.
Yeah, but like you said, there's a lot of depth there, and the guy who was in charge of it, James Godard. I guess I didn't do too much research. I don't know how to say his last name,
It's all right.
but he has a history of like developing video games and fighting games. In Street Fighter 2, do you know DJ, like the Jamaican
Yeah, of
dancer guy?
course. Yeah, of
That
course I do.
that's his creation. Like he
Oh,
made
wow.
DJ, and then after Street Fighter 2, he's like, I'm gonna go do my own thing, and then made Weaponlord. So he has history of like making fighting games. He knows what he's doing. That's why the depth's there. And that's
Yeah.
also why he was like so intimate with I'm gonna do the opposite of Street Fighter, because he worked on it beforehand.
Do you know the story of Weapon Lord? Like the story, the in-game story?
I was gonna ask about that. I have some
Very
notes
long.
here, and like it's as far as fighting game stories go, right now they're very convoluted. I
Yeah.
think like Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7, they both involve like atomic bombs and like trying to make a volcano explode to destroy the planet. That's I have no idea what's going on there. Like it's in the
Right.
future. Maybe you can explain this further, but there's a demon lord
There
and
is.
there's a prophecy and they're like, "Hey, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, a baby born today is gonna kill you. You should go kill all the babies." He's like, no, 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 no. I may be a demon lord, but I'm not a baby killer.
That's
I'm gonna let them grow up. And then he hosts a tournament 20 years later for people born on that day to challenge them one on one and kill them as adults. Do I have the
it's
gist of it?
it's hardcore, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that is like the most demon lord thing that demon lord could do. Like, oh, you think I want to kill him? No, like bring it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
You know, like we'll see. I'll give him time to grow and we'll see if this prophecy is true. That's pretty tough, dude.
Yeah. This is like, even just so far as like the font that the story is presented in, it's like very intense. It's like, in the Age of
Oh yeah.
Conquerors, man has battled. In the Age of Conquerors, on a bloody battlefield, a wandering mercenary, his last breath. It's like very intense with the story that they're telling, which is like cool because I think I like story modes in like fighting games. Sometimes it has to like I think this works really well, and it brings together a whole bunch of people. Why you have like a bald guy, a wolf man, and a
Yeah.
spider lady. It's like
They all have like there's a vibe to this game. They all have a
mhm,
very similar look, right? And like it makes it feel organic, like it takes place in a certain time in a
mhm,
certain world. Like the people have their individual outfits that kind of sets where they are in this world.
yeah.
And there's even a map, which is kind of
Mhm,
neat. Um, so there's like that uniqueness between characters, but also like they all seem as though they live in the same world, like they're
mhm.
the same materials on their outfits, things
Yeah,
like that, right? And they're all super beefy. Must be a
yeah,
harsh world.
yeah. Just like the art direction of this almost looks like Conan the Barbarian
Right.
meets like Heavy Metal Magazine, where just like they look like beefy barbarian guys, but then you also have that extra layer of like edge to it, like someone's just like covered in bones, or someone just like is like,
Yeah.
and the game's like
Wearing a
very
wolf
bloody.
skin, you
Yeah,
know?
the wolf
Yeah. Yeah.
skin, just like
Yeah.
the skin of like who I've conquered. It's like very intense, and like
Yeah.
I also wasn't expecting it. I don't want to say it's graphic, but like when you hit someone, there's like a
Oh,
lot of blood that spurts out. It's like intense.
so it is graphic. I watched
Mhm.
online, you could decapitate people and like totally wreck their body. Like I saw a video where this one dude pulled off a combo, ended up decapitating his opponent, and then
Mhm.
like obliterating their like decapitated body. So you could see like a rib cage and stuff. I was
Yeah.
like, oh dang! Like I don't know how on earth you get that good at this game, but it could happen. It could happen.
So there's the Mortal Kombat influence. He took the fatalities that Mortal Kombat had and wanted to put in this, but you can only perform these if you're also at low health. So like if I'm dominating
Whoa.
you, like I can't pull it off. It's almost like it's a really close, but then you do like a cool finisher move.
Yeah.
And so the moves, the finishers that you can do, there's disembowelment, decapitation, one that's just called brain, uh body body pulp, frenzy, curse slam, and skull.
These are cool names.
Yeah.
This game is so metal.
This game is it's so metal. It's now speaking of so it doesn't have like a heavy metal soundtrack, but it has
No,
like a cool like it's got like an edgy soundtrack to it. Is there I don't know how far in the game you got, but is there any
not
like
very.
I was about to say I think I made it to level 2. I was able to beat the level 1 opponent like once.
Whoa.
Yeah. I,
Dude, you're a
I
superhero.
know.
I'm in trouble when we go to fight each other, dude.
So I don't know if it was in story mode or arcade mode, but one of them was easier than the other.
Okay, okay. Oh, interesting fact. The
Mhm,
game we played, this might blow your mind. The apparently the default difficulty on the Genesis version
mhm.
is easier than the default difficulty on the
Really?
SNES version. Yeah. Yeah, I saw an article about the differences and it said that the Genesis default difficulty is easier. Unbelievable.
So there's story mode that I could not finish the first level in, and then in arcade mode, I think the first level of arcade mode, the computer just picks whatever character you picked
Mhm,
and then
mhm.
does the same attack you do, but a little bit after you.
Oh, interesting.
So that one was easy enough to be like, if I do an attack while he's stuck with his sword out, I can now do my next thing while he's so I wasn't playing the game. I was
Right.
like gaming the computer in a way. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that's going to translate at all, but yeah, this game is tough.
I don't know, Mike. You might have me. You might have me in this one. I gotta be honest. I'm not very confident in my skills here. I could do some sick projectiles though.
I I have no projectiles. I can't figure it out. You can just do that the whole time, and then I can't get close to you and hit you with my sword.
Well, it's tough. I mean, I could get them to work about 20% of the time. So
Very cool. So I'm looking at my notes and everything I have here. I was going to talk about after you and I play the game, and we can get into like the mechanics and the nitty gritty of it.
yeah.
But do you have anything you want to talk about before we head into the commercial break?
No, no, not really. If the name Simon Bisley sounds familiar to you, he did a lot of comic book work.
Mhm.
Mikey, you actually mentioned another game he had worked on to me. He did the cover for it. It was a PS1 era game. Do you remember the
Uh,
name of it?
yeah, it was Heavy Metal Geomatrix.
Yeah, yeah. And
It
you said
was
it's actually a good game, right?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. I did that for this show. The guest I had that pitched that was in the middle of moving, and like we're still trying to get on the schedule to like reschedule that game. But it was him and, funny enough, Kevin Eastman, who did the Ninja
Oh,
Turtles.
yeah, super dope.
The two of them ended up like after doing comics. Kevin Eastman ended up as like president of Heavy Metal Magazine, and Simon Bisley was like editor in chief or something. So the
Wow.
two of them made a heavy metal video game like based off the magazine, and they both had like influence on that. And Simon Bisley did all of the character designs for Heavy Metal Geomatrix. And again, they're all like beefy dudes and beefy gals, but this one has like a futuristic setting. So some of them are like beefy aliens, some of them are like beefy robots, or like a beefy person with like a
Yeah.
cybernetic eye laser
Yeah.
type of thing. But like very clearly Simon Bisley like artwork throughout
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's done some work on Lobo too. And like,
Mhm.
he has that like gritty feel to his artwork. He did a few covers for Preacher too.
Oh, have you read Preacher?
Yeah. Of course I've read Preacher. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I just read the first collection of Preacher last week.
Oh,
I just
nice,
finished it.
nice.
I did not get a chance to do a Mikey's Comic Corner in your Discord about it yet, but I just finished it last week. I had no idea what to expect going into it. It's really good.
It's really good. You're in for a wild ride. You're
Yeah.
in for a wild ride. I'll tell you that much. It goes places. It's good. I enjoyed Preacher a lot. I don't think the TV series did the comic book justice at all.
Oh, I forgot there was a TV on A&E or something, or
It was on like FX, I think.
FX. Yeah, that's exactly what it
yeah,
was. Yeah, it came out around the same time they did Legion, right? They also had like an X-Men TV show around the.
I did
same
like the
period.
Legion show for the first few seasons. I don't think I ever finished it, but I did enjoy the Legion show. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to find a comic book fighting game and have you back on for that show, and we can just talk about comics and video games.
Let's do it.
Okay, wonderful. But with that said, we're gonna go ahead, play some Weaponlord, and when we come back, like I said, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of it. Just stay tuned, stick around through this commercial, and go support whatever the ad is. We'll be right back.
Cambo, why don't you have a shirt on?
Well, there's nothing worth wearing, Eden, because if it's not cancelled movie report related, I ain't wearing it.
Oh, really? Is that true?
I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Well, Cambo, you've got to sort something out. Where can you get some of that merch?
Oh, you know what? I've just thought of something. We now have cancelled movie report merch. And if you hit the link in the episode notes, you can shop it yourself.
Hang on, it takes you right there.
It takes you right there.
The future is now, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we just got back from a very intense game of Weaponlord, and
I'm sweating.
yeah, just it was intense. It was a couple of the games were really close, but like true 0-2 Heroes fashion, I of course lost the game again. I've won one game this whole podcast, and it was against Rick from Pixel Project Radio because he accidentally fell off the edge. I didn't even beat him.
Was that Nick All-Star Brawl?
Yeah, he accidentally killed himself, and I guess more so than me winning, he lost, but that's the one victory I have in this podcast.
It counts, baby. It counts.
Oh, it does count. But yeah, so we played Weaponlord. We cycled through a bunch of characters. We played 4 games, and I think I played 4 different characters for all of them.
Yeah, I made the mistake of picking one of the characters twice, but that was an error. I ended up losing the second game with that character, but winning the first one by absolutely cheesing it. Like, that was the worst. I was like, this is terrible. I'm just poking you over and over again.
You just stood there with your long sword, and like I couldn't even get close to you. And like it's funny because that's such an easy move to do, but there's such like a robust combo system in this game that they developed, and just neither of us could figure it out.
I pulled off one combo that was pretty cool, but I just kind of jumped in, did like a light slash, and then just kept pressing different slashes, and it ended up like like kneeling for some of them, ducking for some of them. It ended up being a pretty cool combo. Like it was effective, super effective. Yeah.
I was gonna say at times it looked like you know what you were doing.
I mean, maybe I did. Maybe I'm the ringer. Maybe I roped you into this whole thing just to show the world how good I am at Weaponlord.
So I think one of the most unique things about this, when I was looking up the combos, so in Street Fighter you do like the little combo and then you press the punch button. It's the opposite here. You hold down the press punch button, do the combo, and then you let go of it. You have to do the button first. Yeah.
The thing is, you don't have to let go of it. And I think that's why I was able to pull off a lot of special moves here, because I was basically like, I found a little trick, right? So this was basically definitely made so that you have a 6-button Genesis controller.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the reasons we didn't have as much fun with it, is we had the 3-button Genesis controller. But there are forward slashes and back slashes, right? And it's not directional though. Like, your back slashes don't go behind you. They're just called in the game backslashes. So basically, like, the top 3 buttons are your light, medium, heavy backslashes, and the bottom 3 are your light, medium, heavy forward slashes, they call them. So for a lot of the combos, we're reading a manual that was made when the game came out, but we're playing on a keyboard, so it doesn't really translate well. But I noticed for a lot of them, you could use they have a different name for it. It's not light heavy, so I don't really know what they're talking about. But usually most of the combos say you could use like basically the equivalent of the light and medium or the medium and heavy.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, if I just hold the medium attack button, it could apply to either one. And then I just move the directionals in like a circular motion, and I'm pulling off all these special moves, dude. You saw it. I had like flaming swords.
Mhm.
I had little green orbs I was shooting out. I had like all sorts of stuff I was doing. So I think I hacked the game in a way. You know, I figured out that like, okay, this medium button works for most combos or most special moves. And like, if I just do that and kind of mess with the directionals, and then through playing that way, I kind of figured it out, like which directions worked, and then I was able to pull them off at will, which kind of helped a little bit.
Gotcha. I was looking into it. The first game I played, I think I picked Bane, and I was looking up some Bane combos on the phone, and like Street Fighter, the combos, I don't want to say they're easy, but it's
Right.
like a quarter circle motion or a full circle motion or like a front and a back. Bane's combos, it's up, forward, up, back, down. It's kind of just like you just gotta wiggle it for no
Yeah.
reason, and like that's tough to do on a keyboard. Where I'm trying to figure out what to do, but yeah,
The reason I didn't choose like Thalasia, for example, is one of her combos, like we're on a keyboard, like you said, and one of her combos is like up forward to down backward to back to up forward and a hit button. And I'm like, okay, how do you even do that on a keyboard? Right? Like you kind of can't do that on a keyboard. So yeah, it seemed like there are definitely moves that would be very difficult to impossible to pull off on this controller. Yeah,
but like you're able to pull them off. I think I was able to pull off like one specific combo move. I don't remember with which character, but I played.
You were pulling off some good combos. You were definitely pulling off some good combos.
So those combos, they were all just like not the special moves that are built into the game. My whole plan was jump up towards you, and I'm just thinking like rationally, jump up towards you, hit you at the top, hit you in the middle, hit you down at your feet, and then jump away so you can't get me, and repeat. That was my whole game plan.
Well, you got me because like I'd usually block the one coming in because I'd see it like, okay, and not all the time, but typically I'm like, okay, he's coming in. And then I'd block the one in the middle because I'm just holding backwards. But then you'd get me with like the trip. You'd get me with like the legs. And then you'd be able to land like 2 or 3 more and jump back. So like it was a sound strategy for sure.
Yeah.
It was a sound strategy.
And it worked some of the time. I took a few games. So like I didn't get completely washed out.
No, you did not. It was not a wash. You did win once overall, like out of the, but like I think every match that we played, you won one of them. I didn't beat you like 2 in a row at any point. Except
the last one.
Oh, well, that everything was on the line, dude.
Yeah, that was the final battle of good and evil.
Yeah. So you want to talk about who we played as?
Yeah, I was about to say I played 4 characters, you played 3 characters. Was there anyone that you really liked? Is there anyone you didn't like?
So I read online prior to playing that Devada is like resoundingly the best character in the game, like very much considered to be like the one to choose. So I chose her first, and I liked her. She has some cool special moves, but she doesn't have like much of a range.
Yeah.
But I did well enough with her. Like I kind of toasted you with that one projectile over and over because it like knocks you down, and then when you're on the ground, I could just hit you with it again.
I just got stuck over and over again. Yeah.
And then after that, I chose Jen Tai, and she was all right. She has like a long sword, and the majority of her attacks don't go very far out. But once I found that one attack that did, I really felt bad, just like absolutely hitting you. I was just poking you with her sword over and over and over again, and it felt bad. And then I picked her again on accident, and the second time I did try to pull off combos and like special moves, and I did pull off some, but that's the one you ended up beating me in. And then for the final match, I chose the kind of the guy you're supposed to choose. I think he's the main character of the game. His name is Korr, and it's Korr in case you're wondering. And that was cool. He had like some cool special moves I was able to pull off with like flaming swords, and it was neat. And that was the final battle because you had picked the boss of the game, and we were actually in the level that was like the boss's domain. So it felt epic, man. That really felt epic.
You pretty much beat the game. Just like
might as well say I did. The final boss, Mikey. Yeah. So who'd you end up going with?
So I cycled through a few of them. The first one I picked was Bane. I he's like a wolf man. I thought he was cool. But the same way that you looked up who was the best, it looked like Devada was the best. I looked up a few things. It was like, Devada's the best. Everyone's just somewhere in the middle, kind of even. And then Bane is the worst.
I saw that tier list. I saw that same tier list that was
Yeah.
like kind of everybody, like
Yeah.
as the middle tier, right? Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's just because everyone's got like swords or daggers, and Bane just has a hammer, so his range is really tiny. So I gotta get like real close to you, but by the time I do that, you've already jabbed me 3 times with your sword. But
Yeah, it was not a good matchup against Gentai.
No.
That's for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So I quickly got off of that, and I have the list of characters here. Devada, I think Devada's cool. I had fun with her. I can see why she's the best. She has the laser move that she kept hitting me with, and when I was playing the computer, she has this move where she turns into an orb,
Yeah.
shoots at you, and then opens up behind you so you can't hit her, and then she can just do that over and over again. So I can see why she's the best in the game.
Yeah, she actually, like, one of her standard attack buttons too is like a high-low combo. It's like a 2-hit. You have to be pretty close to pull it off, but like she hits high and then hits low. And I'm thinking, man, that's like, if you're within range, you're not blocking one of those.
Yeah.
Like one of them's getting through. And you landed that on me a few times. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I can definitely see like why she's the best, but I feel like there's a lot of mechanics in the fighting that I just didn't get to, and I think partly it's because we're like doing it on keyboard and not a Sega controller, and like there's no practice mode. It's like so I can't just like go in there and like practice combos. I have to like face a computer that's going to beat me. But when I was watching that development video from the guy who made it, he was explaining all of like the stuff he put in. So instead of holding back for a block, you can hold forward and press an attack button to parry someone. And then you go, whoa, I got parried. And then that lets me attack you, but I couldn't pull that off. I'm sorry, not
like,
a parry.
I feel like, yeah, it's called something else. What's the name
It's a
that they
thrust
use?
block.
Right, a thrust block, which is like a parry, basically.
Yeah.
And I feel like we did do that a few times, but like I don't, on my behalf anyway, it wasn't intentional. And it's like you also have to be able to recognize it's happening in order to land those like subsequent hits, right? Yeah. Which like I was like, oh, I'm just trying to attack you. You happen to be attacking at the same time, and I did it, you know?
Yeah. There was the second match where you picked Gentai again. I went in and I was like, I'm going to try and get a parry. And like, maybe I did, but like you said, I didn't recognize that you were like, oh no, I'm in parry. And I couldn't attack you on it. And like, it wasn't worth it for me to just stand there waiting for you to hit me. So I went back to just mashing buttons.
There is a sound effect. That's how I knew he pulled it off. There's like a specific like twang when you do it. It's like twang, you know. Anyway, I can't replicate it, but if you go watch the video, you can see it, which is on Fightcade. Apparently, it's on the internet. Yeah,
it's on the internet. I will
if you
also
see ass versus link. S, that's us. Yeah.
You were ass. I tried to be sex. Instead of moving over to the next letter, I just clicked confirm as soon as I got the S in. I was like, okay.
But yeah, it's so apparently there's like you could break the weapons too. It says in the manual there are clashes apparently as well. Like if we were to do a certain attack at the same time, there's like a clash mechanic, which we didn't get to do.
No.
And I think you just mash buttons to like try to win the clash.
Yeah.
And then weapons can break as well, which I didn't know, which did not happen. Yeah.
No, and I was trying to get it to happen, but it's mostly, there are a few times like our weapons clashed, and then we both realized this move isn't working, we did something else. But like you can keep hitting their weapon with your weapon, and eventually they break, and you can keep fighting, you just do less damage now, because your sword's broken, and your range isn't as long. So it like it affects like, I don't want to say like real world physics, but it makes sense.
Right.
Your sword's broken. It's not as long. Your like attack is shorter now. So like it makes sense like that way.
So you keep attacking with the broken weapon.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Because I was like, man, I wonder if there's like a whole new move set without the weapon, or if you just get like wrecked. Like, oh, that's it. Your weapon broke. You're useless now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, cool. I wouldn't say useless. Just not as good.
Right.
But then not only you can break weapons, but depending when certain animations line up with other animations, you can like cut off people's hair. You can cut off like pieces of their clothing. Like Core, you know how he has that ponytail? If you duck an attack and I'm like swiping above you and it's like really close, I can like clean cut that ponytail off like right off of you.
Dude, that's super impressive.
Mhm.
Like even the decapitations and stuff, like there was a lot of thought put into this
Yeah.
game. And I think that the only thing that really hurts it more than anything else is the control scheme. Like if this
Mhm.
game went with a control scheme like a Capcom control
Yeah.
scheme, right? I think it would have been extremely successful personally, because people would have walked in, known how to pull off the moves. It wouldn't have been as difficult, and like it could have actually gained some ground, because there are a lot of like interesting mechanics, like the weapon breaking, the clashing, the parries, the details of like cutting off hair or like armor, articles of clothing, things like that. Like that is a lot of thought put into this game, and maybe Weaponlord deserves more recognition.
I don't know what happened to it, but there was plans for a sequel, or like at least the story mode sets it up. I know neither of us finished the story mode, but you know how they have like that text and like it's the weapon land and everybody fights and they have weapons. At the end when you defeat Zarok at the Demon Lord, there's like, oh no, there's someone more powerful than Zarok waiting in the shadows. Like trying to hype you up like, oh man, who's that? The villain for the next game.
Like it's Zarok's just the puppet.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, that's cool. I have to say, dude, this has been like playing it against you is cool. This is now and like thank you, because this is now the memory I have of Weaponlord, and it's a positive one.
Good.
So that's really, really good. And I'm just gonna say that if they did do a Weaponlord like remake or remaster, I'd buy it. Like I'd probably
be
buy
there,
it.
yeah.
I'd be there for it, because the music's pretty good. Like the sprites are incredible. And I just like this game, man. I don't know. I really think this whole experience of coming on here won me over on Weaponlord somehow. Yeah.
I say that pretty much every episode, but like my computer's in the basement, I record my podcast in the basement, so like when I come down here to practice the games, I'm like playing the game by myself in a basement and it's not fun. But then when I'm like playing against someone and like we're hanging out and we're talking, I think that's like much more enjoyable. Just like that. And I say that every episode, but it's true. It is. It's great. I had more fun playing with you than I did the entire like 4 days leading up to this. I don't know. I didn't play for very long in those 4 days, but like that 15-minute segment was like the highlight of like my whole Weaponlord career.
For sure. Like we weren't supposed to play for 2 weeks, Mikey. I thought I was playing for 2 weeks. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Behind the scenes here, people, I don't think we've ever done 2 weeks. That's the plan, and it always ends up being, oh no, I need to reschedule, and we have like 6 weeks or like 3 months, or it's I played this game as a kid, day of the podcast. How do I get this emulator to work? And just no in between. We've never done like an appropriate like, but like it works because I don't even know if I played like an hour's worth of this game over the 4 days. So we were still pretty much on like even footing. That's the whole thing. Yeah.
I downloaded Fightcade last night. I booted up the ROM last night, and I probably like maybe an hour of it between today and yesterday. But it was cool, man. It was just it's really a lot of fun. Like you said, like you don't play games like this anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't. Like who do I ever have over to my house? People don't come over here.
You're telling me Brian, your co-host, not the mean guy from the video store, doesn't come over and play Weaponlord with you?
No, I don't know. I've invited him over before, and he does not. He does not come over and play Weaponlord with me, unfortunately.
Yeah, the whole 2 week thing is just, it's more of like a guideline to make sure we're on like the same even footing. Argument's sake, if you've played Weaponlord every day since it came out and I came in, that's not fair. That's not going to be a fun game.
Right.
But as long as we're like kind of like an even level, who cares? It's just an arbitrary time frame.
Exactly.
Now, one of the questions I always ask, like on the show in regards to the game, if you were working on Weaponlord and you got to add a character, who would you add? It could be a design, like there's a Wolfman. I want like a dragon guy or someone
Right.
you can go like, oh, I want someone with this type of weapon. Just it doesn't have to be a concrete, just like a concept. Like who would you add to the game if you could?
Man, they really covered like their bases as far as like they got sword people, they got like Delasia who throws like these little talon things, and they got a hammer guy, an axe guy, and like it does lean into fantasy with Zarak. He's like not quite human, or either that or he's wearing like a giant spider on his head. But oh man, who would I like to see added? I'd like to see Simon Bisley as a playable character in the game. No, I'm kidding.
He just draws himself in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think leaning more into the fantasy would be cool, like some amalgamation of human animal hybrid would be neat, and then like maybe a weaponless character. I know it's called Weaponlord, but maybe like this animal human hybrid that like they are the weapon.
Oh, okay.
That would be kind of neat to see, because I wonder, I guess it wouldn't work. Maybe like you could cut off their arms if you did like a weapon break on them, you know what I mean? But gosh, I don't know. It's a good thing I'm not a game designer. I think my ideas are pretty poor, dude. So yeah, that's the best
I would
could come up with.
totally love to fight like a dragon or like
Right?
keep it like a
Like a
fantasy
giant lizard
creature.
man,
Yeah.
No other video game has ever done that, right?
Yeah.
No other fighting game. No, giant
it's
lizard
just like
guys.
yeah, Primal Rage doesn't exist. There's no
No,
dragons.
Mortal
there's no
Kombat, like no
no.
reptile. No.
And I was thinking, because it's like fantasy, it's like sword and sandal.
Right.
If you threw in like a wizard or a witch character,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
and like they had projectiles, like more projectiles than everybody else.
They
and,
kind
like,
of
the
do that
weapon-
with Devada. Like she talks
Yeah.
about black magic, but like a more focused, like less
and then
combat
like their
focused.
weapon was just like a staff.
Right.
Where like it, or like even a wand, where it doesn't like do a lot of the damage. You have to use like the magic if you could, but
No, that'd be good. That would fit too. That would definitely fit, right?
James Godard, if you're listening, Weaponlord 2, add a wizard character and
Absolutely.
add a lizard. Oh
Yeah. Wizard versus lizard.
I was thinking combine them to the one character, have a lizard wizard.
Oh, that'd be cool, dude. That'd be cool. Yeah, let's get that remaster happening. Let's get that remake. New characters developed just for the remake. Come on. Work with me, James. We know you're listening. We know you Google the games that you worked on every week, and you're going to see this episode.
I was about to say, James, I hope you're listening, because I know you're active on Twitter. I'm going to tag you when this episode comes out. I hope you listen to it.
I truly hope he does, because I really think that he made a special game that I was sour on for a long time,
I was not sour on it. I only played it a few days ago, but okay, I'm not gonna lie. When I first opened it, I was very sour on it, because the computers they were kicking my ass. They're
difficult,
just like,
man.
I played for like 10 minutes and I put my keyboard down. I was like, this sucks. I can't play it. And then I looked up combos, and after a little bit of practice, I'm like, okay, now I'm getting the hang of it. But like,
Yeah, maybe I'll start like getting a competitive fighting scene together now with Weaponlord, like somebody's got to come take this crown.
I was about to say, it looks like there is, I don't know if it's like a major scene, but if you go to the Fightcade website, right underneath us, the last people to play the game, they played in August, July, and in June, so they're fairly active. It's people from Chile and people from Argentina.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. I mean, I was kind of, Fightcade shows you who else is playing the game. So I saw your name on there, right? Like I was like, oh, Mikey must be in the lab, like same time I am, right? And we were the only two names.
Yeah.
Like every time, which obviously wasn't many times that I was on there, but still, not a lot of people playing Weaponlord in 2023.
Yeah, I get that. And just for comparison, it doesn't look like Fightcade's like super popular or anything, but if you go to their homepage, it shows you like the most popular games, and it looks like King of Fighters 98 currently has the most people playing with 446.
Wow,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so definitely more than the 2 we had for Weaponlord, but give us maybe a year. UI James Godard. We're gonna start a whole community on Fightcade. We're gonna get that up to 500 people playing at once.
We could let's put all that energy, all that marketing energy behind the remake. I want a remake.
Okay.
I want it to happen. I want it with updated controls.
I looked into it and I was just like doing research for the game, and I thought they announced a remake and I was real excited. It was an artist's interpretation of what they wanted the remake to be. Someone went through and like redrew all the characters and redrew all the backgrounds and made like a website, and it was like concept art of what it could be. But when I'm just looking down Google Images and I see a whole bunch of them, I didn't get a chance to read the article. I'm like, oh, cool, new Weaponlord? But no, just hope.
See, but James, you could hire people like that. There's people out there who want this, who would work on it with you. So come on, buddy. I like how this episode turned into us talking to James exclusively, James Goddard.
I'm gonna follow like my podcast stats every day until I figure like, oh, one of these listens has to be James. I hope he enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
You know what, James, if you're listening, come on the show. You like fighting games? I'll fight games with you. Come on. And then
he's really bad at them too, James. No, I'm just kidding.
As you can clearly see, I will lose. So at the end of today, we have 2 campaigns. 1, make Weaponlord Remaster. 2, get James Goddard on my show. That's
absolutely.
Fans, tweet at James Goddard for both of those. I think he's the person who's in control of both of those. We need a remake. We need him on my show. You
better make sure it's the right James Goddard. It's not exactly like an uncommon name. You're just tweeting at some guy, like random dude. He's like, "What is all this?"
It's just like a poor English teacher in Canada who's like, who are these podcasts?
Yeah. Why are they roping me into this? Fine, I'll come on your show.
I was about to say, I'm going through my notes, and I only have 1 note left, and it's at this point it's just become like a little bit of a joke. It's not a very serious one, but you're having people over to your house. You're having Brian over. You're having Rick over. You're having Dave from Tales. I
just explained this doesn't happen, but okay. Yeah.
Just you're inviting everybody to your house. We're having a great big party, and you're in charge of bringing the game for everybody to play. Are you bringing Weaponlord, or are you bringing Smash Bros?
Mikey, this is not a fair question.
I know. Okay, I ask this every episode.
One is 2 players. One is a lot more than 2 players, right? Like
it's become a bit of a joke at this point, just because when I first did it, the emulators that I was playing the previous games on were on the same computer the emulator for my GameCube was on, and I would get 20 minutes into this game. I was like, I'd rather be playing Smash Bros. And I would switch to Melee. So then it just became like a question like, hey, did you feel the same way? And they were like, yeah, about 20 minutes into playing Tekken or Bushido Blade, I was like, I'd rather be playing a different game. So it's tradition. I have to ask now.
I'll answer your question. I think if it were a smaller crowd, we could do a Weaponlord tournament. And I think it would be just as much fun as playing Smash Brothers, because it's something new, something people haven't heard of. The game is, like we said, really well made. A lot of thought went into it. And like I would want to see how people work with the combo system and with the move system. I don't know if it'd be just as fun as Smash Bros. Let's be real. Like that's a good game for a big group of people, right? It's like Mario Kart. It's the same thing. So I have a question for you. 20 minutes into playing Weaponlord, did you think, oh, I'd rather be playing Smash Brothers?
No. It's not just because I was playing on a different computer. Like I said, the first time I played it, I got frustrated and I put it down. But after I figured out what I could do, and I realized that there's like so much more I could do, I felt determined to at least figure like one combo out.
Nice. I'm happy to hear that, man. So you heard it here on O2 Heroes that Weaponlord is better than Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
Okay, perfect. Now, that's all of the notes I have. Is there anything else you want to talk about the game? Anything on your mind?
No, I will. I'll tell one more story, Mike.
Okay. Oh, you have more stories. Lay it on me.
I'll tell just one more. Okay. So, after the initial episode where I talked about Weaponlord and I discussed this, the same thing I discussed earlier this episode, the trip to the movie store and not being able to switch it out and all that. I was like, man, at the time we were selling merch. We don't sell merch anymore, but we were selling shirts. And I was like, what if I could get Simon Bisley to make a List Off podcast shirt in the Weaponlord font, because he did the font too,
Mm-hmm.
So I just sent him a message on Instagram, and I'm like, he's probably never going to see this. He's probably never going to get back to me. But he did get back to me, and he's like, he was like, no. um, and I'm like, oh, dude, that's so cool. You responded. Like, would you be able to? Would you be interested? Like, I'd pay you for it. And he basically said, I don't even have the rights to that font. Like, I don't have that. You'd probably have to get in touch with Namco or like whoever owns the rights to the game. And that was the long and short of it. But technically, I had a conversation with Simon Bisley, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna add getting Simon Bisley onto the show as my third task for the week.
Yeah, you could play Heavy Metal Geomatrix with him.
Yeah, I could have him on for that one.
Exactly. Well, him and Kevin Eastman.
Okay, now my laundry list of people to get on the show. At first,
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. At first, there's like podcasters who I know, who I'm friends with, just like in real life friends. This is easy. And now I'm like getting comic book legend Kevin Eastman on the list of people I need to have on the show.
Best of luck, Mikey. Best of luck.
Thank you. Now, before we go, I'd like to give you an opportunity. Please tell us about List Off, where we can find you, what it is. I know all about it. You don't need to tell me this. You need to tell our listeners who might not know about you.
Sure. So we're a podcast. We used to do top 10 lists, top 5 lists of different video game topics for the first 2.5 years of us being around. So we have a healthy backlog of that. And now we just basically do short little weekly episodes covering gaming and pop culture news. We're available anywhere you get your podcast. It's List Off with Brian and Ryan. I don't know how he wrote me into letting his name be first, but here we are. Here we are. And I also do a series on YouTube that's on the List Off Podcast YouTube channel called Wee Haw. It is a monthly series where I document my trials and tribulations in collecting for the Nintendo Wii. I was gifted a Nintendo Wii, and I started collecting for it. So I was like, hey, I could make content out of this, baby. Like, what am I doing with my life? So yeah, that's been a lot of fun too. So yeah, check us out sometime if you want to. We're pretty cool.
Yeah, I like them. Ryan was nice enough to have me on his show. Okay,
Twice,
he was nice enough to have me on the show 2 times. I forced myself onto that 3rd time when I just made an episode for him. But yeah, just Ryan's great, Brian's great. Go check out the show. And Ryan, don't worry about you not plugging your socials or where to find you. I know where to find you. I'll put all of that in the show notes below.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm not like the best salesman of my own show,
I was about to say I'd argue I'm a worse salesman. When I do the show, I'm like, I'm not going to plug myself. You don't need to find me. If you're listening to this, you've already found me. Just my job is done. I don't need to do anything.
Exactly. Well, I do want to say, Mikey. I want to say, Mikey, thank you for having me on. Honestly, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to play Weaponlord again. And and thanks for handing the game over to me and losing on purpose. I really appreciate that. You're so generous to all your guests except Rick.
And I was trying real hard to let him win, and just he wouldn't let me.
I know he's like, no, not today. I'm walking off this ledge. Yeah. But I really appreciate it, man. It was a good time for sure.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I think my journey with Weaponlord is much shorter than yours, but it's funny how we both started off like, this isn't a fun experience, and then by the end of it, like, I really enjoyed this, so I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, we're recording this Saturday afternoon. It's just about noon. I don't want to hold you up any longer. I know you have stuff to do on the weekend, but I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on. Listeners at home, listeners in the car, wherever you may be, thank you for listening. Thank you for making this far, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye, James.